everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome back to our monthly market review, which we do every single month at the beginning of each single month. So today we have a few important topics to discuss that came into effect early this year. But first, I wanted to mention a few to go through a few points that I'm seeing happening right now on the market, just to give like a quick market update from my standpoint of view. Those who don't know me, my name is Marina.selby, and I'm a real estate agent, and I service Toronto and the North GTA. So as we moved from 2022 to 2023, the average home prices as well as the sales volume in the GTA overall were pretty much the same, very similar to December 2022. Now, it's also, I think it's very important to mention that Toronto Real Estate Board releases market information, the market statistics each and every single month that we can see what was happening in the previous month, as well as read some kind of predictions of what's going to happen in the next month or so. But when we film this video, which is today, February 6th, things have already changed on the market based on what I see. And as we all know, real estate can truly change in a matter of just weeks, or just 1 week, actually. So I had this morning call with my team, with my colleagues from my brokerage, and we are spread throughout the whole GTA. And I can say that pretty much every single agent admitted that they are starting to see a lot of multiple offers coming in, as well as a lot of listings are hitting the market this past 1 week. So the information that Treb released doesn't show that, but this 1 week actually makes already like a big difference based on what we're seeing. And I think there are a few factors that actually affected that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the fact that Bank of Canada announced that the interest rate hikes are likely to be on hold going forward is a major one. And as well as the continuous population growth and the demanding labor market conditions and things like that. But I think all of that will continue to support the housing demand, as well as likely will bring those active buyers back to the market in the next couple of weeks, maybe like a few weeks. So Toronto Real Estate Board predictions, they support that, as well as we are seeing this right now on the market truly. So, and I know it's a little bit too early to say, but I think it's just worth mentioning. Now, the average sales price in January was slightly less than in December, which was $1,040,000, and a lot less than a year ago when January 22, the prices were like 16% higher than what we're seeing right now. So in terms of prices, we are probably somewhere where we used to be in 2021. And not to beat the dead horse again and again, but all of that is due to the high interest rates, high borrowing rates, right? Most borrowing costs, mostly. So I just wanted to ask you, Louis, to talk a little bit more about that. I know you mentioned on our Facebook group. The link is always in the description below under every single video that I make. So if you guys like our group here, our company, please join us in the Facebook group as well. So what I'm trying to say is that you did mention quite a lot of really important things about the changes that you're seeing with the fixed mortgage rates that the lenders are currently offering. So I just wanted to see if you could please elaborate a little bit more on this with everyone who is not part of our Facebook group, as well as how do you think it's going to affect the buyers overall?
Yeah, so the spotlight has always been on variable rates for the last year for obvious reason. With the constant rate hikes every 90 days, everyone's all fixated on variable rates right now, but fixed rates have kind of been on the back burner because all of our attention was on variable. A lot of people didn't really realize what was going on the fixed landscape. For those of you that don't know, fixed rates actually don't have much of a corresponding relationship to Bank of Canada rate announcements. They are actually tied into the Canada 5-year government bonds. So that's kind of where they get their backing from. And if you pull up a chart over the course of the last 3 months and how the bond yields have been faring, you'll see that it kind of peaked around November at around 3.8%, I believe is what it peaked at in November. And then since then, it's kind of been slowly, gradually dropping. And it kind of bottomed out at the end of January, sub 3%. So what that did was we actually got a little kind of like a time buffer zone where we're getting a lot of announcements that fixed rates are actually dropping. So in a whole rate environment where variable is increasing, everyone knows rates are going up all the time when it comes to variable, fixed rates have actually been dropping kind of quietly in the background. Just to give you a reference point, back in November, fixed rates for the most major banks were in the mid fives, right? Just to give you an example. So 5.3 to even 6% we were seeing for your major big banks. Whereas now we're getting news that we have brokers that are getting deals approved under 5%. We knew that the rates were probably going to start to slow down in terms of increasing this year, but we didn't realize that obviously the fixed rates would start dropping this soon. So how long is it going to stay like this? We don't know if this is the beginning of a more longer period of prolonged decline, but for now, it's safe to say that fixed rates have been dropping for the last 3 weeks. Hoping, fingers crossed, that if it stays this way, we're going to start to see more fixed rates drop. And it's not to say that I'm recommending 5-year fixed rates at all. It's just another option that we've sort of been putting on the back burner because obviously the spotlight was non-fixed rates for the longest time.
So right now you would say that right now you can actually pick and choose, right, between the variable and the fixed, depending what's better, because just recently variable was the go-to rate just because fixed were completely out of reach.
Yeah, like right now the strategy right now is to sort of not time it, but help clients still get into real estate right now, and put them in a position so that when we anticipate rates to come down, they're in a position where they can renew at a better interest rate. We're positioning clients that still want to get into the market now into shorter term mortgages. So 1 year, 2-year fixes, even variable for some people, because it gives you the flexibility to be able to renew or convert your mortgage when rates are in a better, call it a lower environment, right? When the rates start to drop. So that's something that we're, obviously analyzing individually with each person. Everyone's going to be different, but it's nice to see that, maybe the end is near in terms of interest rate hikes, and maybe this year might be a little bit of a stagnant year, which, as bad as it sounds, it's actually not that bad compared to what happened last year. And then hopefully rates start to drop towards the end of this year and early next year.
Right. Yeah. See, it's very important for me as a real estate agent too, and I'm sure many other agents that you're working with, to get updates like this from you, because it truly helps to create some kind of strategy, right, for the buyers, especially when it comes to first-time buyers, I think, right? So we need to know all of that, which is great. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, and I wanted to move on to the next topic, which is something that absolutely is new, that we faced this year. And as of January 1st, 2023, we were told that now all the homeowners of the properties in Toronto are now obligated to file the declaration by February 2nd each year. I hope everyone has done that, because about the vacancy status of their homes, and the failure to do that can potentially result in a pretty large penalty. And I personally think it's quite a good initiative, as the government is trying to mitigate. I'm so sorry, somebody keeps texting me and I don't know what to do with that.
Popular.
Everybody has to respond to all my questions right now. So anyway, what I was saying is that this initiative is quite it's a good initiative by the government, as they're trying to mitigate this home shortage situation that we're all facing. But the question is for you, Marian, what are your thoughts on this? And how do you think the government is going to truly check every single property for that particular status? Because we all know that most of the lenders don't even have the agreement, like written agreement in place. So how do you prove that vacancy status, right? So, and will it truly help the housing shortage situation overall? Just curious to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. The beginning of this year, we have two, I guess, large changes. One being the new vacant home tax, which is in Toronto. And I think I've heard whisperings that other areas will start to sort of follow suit. I think Ottawa has already also, I mean, I know it's further out where we are, but I think I've heard also Vaughan is looking to implement something. In terms of how they will actually police it, that's going to be very interesting because I'm not sure how many people they really have available to sort of dedicate to this. I think they're going to have to rely on how people have filed the taxes, where the home address is. Obviously, if you know you're letting the city of Toronto know, please mail my tax bill to somewhere in Oshawa. That might be a little bit of a red flag, but how they're going to go about really determining every single home, I'm sure it's going to be a very tall task. This is the first year they're sort of really dealing with it, and I think also it's really onerous on a lot of homeowners, especially those that are elderly. I know we've had a lot of people in our office helping their parents and in-laws filing this online. A lot of people either are unaware of it or just don't have the capability of doing so. I know some people have done it by paper, but obviously it is easier to deal with online. But again, I think for some people it's going to be a little more onerous, and they may end up forgetting to file or being unable to file for some reason, and then dealing with the potential 1% of the property's current value assessment. And you know, you think about a 1% doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but when we know that property values, you see them every year, right? Or MCAP will let you know it's a lot of money, right? It's not a couple $100, it's a couple thousand. So in terms of that, it might be a bit of an issue for those who are not able to deal with it, like maybe you or me can. Other than that, it could definitely assist in terms of properties that are vacant. The actual number, I'm unsure of the actual statistics in terms of what homes are actually deemed vacant in Toronto. But realistically, we have a housing shortage, right? Whether that's purchasing a home or being able to rent out a property, having a vacant home isn't really going to help solve that issue. It's going to exacerbate it, right? So if it allows someone or gives them the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not going to leave it vacant, I'm going to rent it out, you're helping out another person being able to find a property. Even though I know rental rates, I'm sure you see it every day, very expensive, sometimes more expensive than a mortgage. But at least you're giving them something, right? So I think in terms of that, it's a good step. I know a lot of people I've heard complain it's sort of almost like Big Brother, you know, why do I have to let you know who's in my home, right? But I think the overarching theme is important. We need more homes listed on the market or homes listed in terms of rentals. So in that sense, it's good. But other than that, it's very important to make sure that you file. If you don't file, I think they've extended it. I remember seeing something about they've extended it a little bit because they've noticed that a lot of people haven't filed. So I think there is a bit of an extension this month, but either way, if you haven't filed, make sure you file. Those are really my comments on that. So the other big act would be the 2-year ban on the purchases of properties by non-Canadians. And it's not, I don't know if you've taken a look at it, it's not as straightforward as it really is. So you have the act and then you have the regulations. And it's quite a bit complex because it also goes through, they will give you like certain exceptions, but they also tell you, you know, there are exceptions, but in these exceptions, you also have to meet certain additional criteria. So just for giving it sort of the general scope of things, what you're really looking at there is, so we already know 2-year ban. Non-Canadians are individuals who are neither Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or individuals that are registered as an Indian under the Indian Act, as well as foreign corporations and prescribed persons or entities. And those prescribed persons or entities are listed in the regulations, but for this, we can just keep it simple and go with terms of properties, we're looking at residential properties as well as properties that are zoned residential and mixed use. So that might not be something that some people are aware of. It's also in locations within a census agglomeration or a census metropolitan area. And essentially it's areas that are not rural. I believe the specific population is something like 10,000. So if it's under 10,000, it's not a part of this. So really, I don't think you're going to see that in the GTA. So that's, again, mainly you're going to be looking at residential property and property zoned as residential and mixed use. There are exceptions, and each of these exceptions have specific criteria. So just because you've met one of the exceptions, you have to make sure you sort of meet the other criteria under that exception. And those are temporary residents that are working or studying in Canada, refugees, someone that's purchasing with a spouse or a common law partner that falls within one of the exceptions, or is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, as well as foreign nationals with diplomatic immunity or special status. There are some also exceptions for certain circumstances, like the rental of a dwelling unit to a tenant for the purposes of its occupation, transfers under terms of trust that were created before the act came into effect, certain acquisitions by a right of death, divorce, separation, or a gift. And in terms, that's the sort of gist of it. I think really what they're trying to do is, in a way, cool the market or make it easier for Canadians to be able to enter the market. Will that achieve anything? I personally don't think so, because the last time I read an article or any other discourse in terms of the amount of foreign individuals that were purchasing in Canada was a lot less than what you would think would make a difference. I think it was something like less than 5%. I think it was even 1%, 1 to 2% of individuals that were purchasing properties were foreigners or not Canadian citizens or permanent residents. And what's 1%, right? Is 1% really going to make a difference? I truly don't think so. I think it's going to be more of a headache, because you have to really be careful. If you end up assisting someone purchase a property that's not a resident, you could be hit with a $10,000 fine. How that's going to play out, we don't know. So we'll have to see how that works in real life. But in terms of the two, I think the one that'll make the most impact would be the vacant home tax, because that's a real thing, right? You know, if it's vacant, that's it. You're getting hit with that tax. It gives you more incentive to want to put the property on the market, or in terms of purchasing or in terms of renting it out.
Right. And you know what, you mentioned a very good point about the headache, because I think we had a chat last week about this, as I had a question about that, which I think it would be great if you can share that as well. So your answer, because I think it was very helpful. So me as a real estate agent representing the buyer, I will do my due diligence. I know I have to check the status to ensure that they legally can purchase something. Otherwise, the whole deal, right, can potentially fall apart. Like, we don't know what will happen, right? Technically.
I think the discourse is, if you enter a contract, I don't think it will affect the status of the contract, but you will be hit with the, because you're entering a legally binding contract. So you don't want, you would get stuck unless, but if you assign it, you're still taking part, you're still in contravention of the act. So what do? Number one, what you do is, if you're confused at all about your status, speak to a professional, a lawyer, to make sure that you are not in contravention, because then you're going to end up in a contract that you're either going to walk away from or you're going to close, and then everybody's in trouble, right? Yeah, I know I don't want to get a $10,000 fine. I don't even want to deal with the vacant home tax in Toronto. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how you really deal with it, how much you can pay profile, making sure you get, you know, passport, copy of passport, permanent resident card, something like that. I know I did speak with someone, and I think I did speak with you as well about this. I was speaking with someone, and they were saying that the birth certificate is not enough, because you can forego your
citizenship.
Yeah. So I guess the passport would make more sense because it would be more recent, and it would say, you know, but again, we don't know. We just got to do the best we can with what we have. So
Right, right. Yeah, and especially it's hard like when like I'm representing the seller, right? I'm trying to sell the property, and then the other agent brings the buyer. He didn't do his due diligence just because, you know, it's something so new, and as we know, something
we don't know how far
Exactly.
and how wide they will take it, right?
Take it,
So
exactly. So how do
we'll
I protect
see.
my, yeah, how do I protect
Yeah,
my seller,
yeah,
right? Like I'm selling the property, but I don't want closer to closing realize that this deal may fall apart or this guy is going to walk
yeah,
away,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
everything is depending, right?
yeah,
Somebody sells because they need these funds to put in a new property, so it's
yeah.
all going to be like a snowball. So I think it's important to put certain clauses in the contract and maybe
Mhm.
literally like ask for this declaration, or no, the certificate. How's it called? What are we requesting? Something so new. I still like I have it on my desktop.
Yeah, I don't think they've even changed the standard APS forms either, because I know they were changed with when I guess grow ups. There's always the standard grow up clause that I see now. You see the standard I am not a non-resident, things like that.
Right.
I think they should all be updated, or make sure you include it if you're a realtor. Make sure you include a clause, that way at least there's something in there. Somebody's turned their mind to it. You can't say, oh, I didn't know, or oh, I forgot. At least you look at it. You hope they look at it. I don't know. Sometimes I think some people just sign, but at least you're doing your best to paper everything, or to make sure that someone, you know, actively thinks of this issue.
Correct. Yeah, I have the certificate and consent of purchaser. That's basically what I have.
Yeah.
That document that actually is the purchaser is supposed to put their name and sign stating,
Yep.
yes, I am a Canadian citizen, or
Yeah.
right. So that is actually a good thing, probably to just attach to
Yep.
the listing, right, as one of those like schedules or attachments that they have to submit as well. But I know I will be requesting this for sure. Just to protect
It's
myself.
you're better safe than sorry, right? So
Right. Exactly.
that's how I
Exactly.
think. Yeah.
All right, that was fun. That is fun. All right, Darin, I saw you were dropped out and then you came back.
I think
You
we
still with
bored him
us?
a
I know
little
you're
bit.
driving.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It cut out like twice, just on its own. So I don't know what happened.
Sorry,
So I was
you're
in the
probably
country, so
driving.
I'm back in Whitby now.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, again, if
So
you are, if you feel comfortable, responding to this message to my sorry, to my questions, basically, as always, we're finishing off the
yeah,
videos with your very helpful tips. And some of the great tips that you did mention in our Facebook group again, which were very timely. I love those timely reminders from you, just because sometimes as homeowners, certain things just escape, right? We don't think about certain things, like, for example, after a lot of snow, we need to clean certain areas, right? Or just do certain maintenance during the cold time of the month. So maybe you want to share a few things that you shared with us in the Facebook group, because I really thought that they were very helpful. So maybe something new, please go ahead.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So one, couple important things. So one is vents, right? Most of us have furnaces and water heaters that vent out through the exterior. Some older homes still go through the roof, through the chimney, but for the most of us, you got the white PVC. If it's older, it might be black, and they should be at least a couple feet above the ground, and that's not always the case. But when you get a lot of snow, a lot of snow drifts, they can actually pile up in certain areas. So, and if they're blocked, even the intake, so a furnace has an intake and a vent, then it's not bringing in the right combustion air. If that gets blocked, and then the venting, if that's blocked and not clear out of the way, then you could have some carbon monoxide issues backing up into the home. So after big snowfall, just go around to your vents, make sure you clean them up. And even another one is your plumbing vent. That's a little bit tougher to see. So if you can see it on your roof, it's a big black one that sticks up, small, same size pipe. It sticks up from your roof about, depending, at least a foot or so. It's got to be at least 6 inches. But again, I've seen some ones that aren't very tall. They're like only a few inches. They get covered with snow. Now your plumbing system isn't venting. If your plumbing system isn't venting, now you can introduce sewer gases into the home because it's not venting out the roof. So that's a little bit harder to see. Some of the bungalows, you can probably see it on your roof, but they should all be at least minimum 6 inches high as well. So that furnace vents, make sure that's clean. Another one I've actually experienced a few weeks ago was ice damming. So what happens is you've got minimal, lack of, or improper type of insulation in the attic. So all your warm air from your home is getting up into the attic space, and believe it or not, it's actually starting to slowly melt that snow, the underlayer under that thick snow. So through the month of February, like you mentioned, Marina, is where we usually get the most snow. And then what happens is it melts, and as it melts, it rolls down the roof and then refreezes by the east trough or the roof edge where there is no heat. It's very, very cold there. And then it keeps doing it over and over again, and it just starts building up big, thick pieces of ice. What happens? Then you get icicles. So a couple things: A, you could damage the east trough. B, you could hurt someone by big icicles falling on somebody. Or C, now when it starts to melt, you get those warm temperatures. All that ice is now melting, and that can get up underneath the roof edge and could cause some water damage to your walls and the interior structure. So if you do have some insulation problems, I mean, obviously if you see that, if you can, just try to get rid of those big icicles if it's possible. Same with, I always say, if you're the only one in your neighborhood that doesn't have snow on your house and everybody else does, you probably have a insulation problem in your attic, because when it snows, it's got to stay there. So if you're missing, if you see your roof or see someone's roof that's got, why do they have all the snow and he's got, that person doesn't have very much snow, probably got an insulation problem, and you're costing a lot of money because you're heating the home more than you should have to. So, so those are a couple things. The other thing I was going to mention too is, I didn't post this yet, but I think I will, is this winter time is a good time to see if you have any drafts, right? Summertime is a little bit harder, but in the winter time, you really know those cool drafts. Everybody feels it. So I usually take a little bit of match, but if you're going to do that, please be safe. I'm not encouraging to use fire, but I do it because it's smoke. Or if you have a smoke gun or something, or even a thin piece of Kleenex or something, you just go around your windows, and when you feel those drafts, note that. And then in the springtime, maybe go outside and maybe got some caulking that's deteriorated. That now you've got yourself a spring job, maintenance job that you've just created yourself. But hey, that's a great time to do it, because then you can seal up all those, maybe all those entry points where you're getting all that cool air coming in. So wintertime is the best time to check for that stuff. So, and your doors too, under doors, your weather stripping underneath the door as well. Those tend to open and close. They tend to wear as well. I'm lucky I have an infrared gun, so I can see how bad it is. But again, you can do little tests. You can really feel where all the air is coming in, because it's important to make sure your house is airtight, so you don't put more energy efficient.
Every
What I got.
time Darin, you share all this information, I don't want to be a homeowner. There's so many issues to deal with on the monthly basis. Just go to
There's
condo.
Hey, you know what? Homeownership is not for the faint of heart, and it's a full-time job.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. You come home and just start cleaning the snow. Truthfully, one more thing that, funny enough, you don't think about cleaning, but we have a gazebo, and our gazebo doesn't have a metal roof. And we didn't think about this because we wanted it this way. It's more like plastic glass. I don't know what that is, but it's hard enough, but it's not hard enough to hold all this heavy snow that we've been experiencing. And now it's our job to go and clean all this snow off of the roof every single time, which is quite challenging, just because there's bushes around and there's trees around the way we positioned it. So yeah, there's a lot of things to think ahead sometimes, which you don't think, but truthfully, taking care of the property is better than trying to fix it later on, for sure. It's a lot cost effective.
Maintenance is huge, right? Maintenance, and that's why I'm always going over that with my inspections too, because that's why reports are full of maintenance items, because a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of things you do can help you save some money or prolong some maybe some bigger issues down the road.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, today's this month's content was great. I think there's a lot of information, and I think we've touched on so many different points. And if anybody has anything else to mention, nothing. Perfect. All right, perfect. I guess
Okay, for next month.
discussed everything.
Save a little bit for next time, right?
Exactly. So then we will see everyone next month. And thank you so much for watching, and join our group. As I mentioned, the Facebook group that we are running every single week, we're trying to post this information, trying to answer all your questions and be as resourceful as possible for you guys. So please join us. The link is going to be always in the description below. And yeah, we'll see you next month. And thank you so much, guys, for your time. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Drive safe, Darin. Bye-bye.